Most people would agree that reading books is really good for you. And personally, when I started to read more books, I decided to set the goal for myself that I was going to read a book every week for an entire year. And when I announced this, people were generally, positive and receptive, but a lot of people also had the question of, am I really reading these books or am I skimming them? Am I dedicating enough time to be able to contemplate the ideas and the thoughts that the authors are putting down, or am I just kind of reading the words and then moving on? And I think it's a really valid question. So today, I want to give my best shot at answering this question about the balance between quality and quantity when it comes to reading. And before I get started, I'd just like to thank the sponsor of this video, Audible. When I need to be, I'm a really fast reader. Online tests, which obviously are not super accurate, show that I can read between 800 and 1200 words per minute for moderate difficulty texts at around 75 to 80% comprehension. So this is pretty standard for speed reading. Speed reading is, a skill that you can learn. You can take courses on this, you can read books on this, and it's a skill that a lot of people really romanticize. And, for good reason, for some things, right? So this skill for me helped me a ton on SAT English, right? Being able to read passages really quickly, but still get most of the information, tremendously beneficial. And speed reading has some pretty obvious evangelicals, if you will. You've got these entrepreneurs, especially on YouTube, talking about how they read a book or even multiple books every day, right? People definitely romanticize this. So, in my opinion, the major benefits of speed reading over contemplative reading is that it allows for this massive, efficient influx of information, as well as the contemplation of a greater breadth of ideas. So rather than contemplating a few ideas very deeply, you're able to contemplate many ideas, but relatively shallowly. And so these are the benefits of speed reading, in my opinion, but on the other end of the spectrum, we have contemplative reading. So for me, contemplative reading happens when I'm reading, less than 100 words per minute, taking the time to think about every thought that the author's putting down, to critically analyze my reactions to those thoughts. And in doing so, it allows me to explore ideas much more deeply. There's no way for you to get through as many books contemplatively reading as you would speed reading. It's simply impossible. But it doesn't matter. Under this philosophy, the process of reading is valuable, not just the books that you're reading. So thinking about the thoughts that the author is putting out there, thinking about every sentence, every word, the way that those words are put together matters a lot to contemplative readers under this philosophy. And placing this emphasis on how words and sentences are used, how language is used, allows us to appreciate things like literature. I mean, if you're skimming Jane Austen or Virginia Woolf, right, it's effectively pointless. Sure, you get a sense of how the story progresses, and maybe you could name the characters and what they do, but the point of literature is that language is being used beautifully. In other words, this is like comparing the spark notes of classics to the classics themselves, right? You get a sense of the story from the spark notes and you can read it a lot faster, but you lose a lot of the value that you get from the original. So then, in my opinion, this philosophy of contemplative reading allows the reader to critically think deeper on fewer issues, and it allows them to appreciate how language is being used. So now that we have this kind of fundamental understanding of how these two philosophies, which are very different from each other, differ, maybe we can start to understand where the right place to be is. So I'm going to give a bit of an intuitive, bit of a cop-out answer to what the right speed is, but I'm going to back it up and explain. So my intuitive answer is that the right rate of reading, the right place in between these two extremes, depends. Let's talk about that. So I want to explain how it depends by kind of illustrating with two of the books that I read most recently. So one of the books I read most recently was To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, which is commonly rated one of the greatest pieces of literature of all time. And the other is Swipe to Unlock, which is a new book written by Meta, Agashi, and Detroya, 3 authors, and it's a technology primer. So the books, although I guess they look very different in length here, but if you look at how they're printed, they're pretty similar in word count. And yet, you shouldn't be surprised to hear that I read To the Lighthouse much slower than I read Swipe to Unlock. In fact, doing some back-of-the-envelope calculations, I was averaging around or slightly under 100 words per minute reading To the Lighthouse. And I was averaging around 800 words per minute reading Swipe to Unlock. I actually read it on the plane from Boston to Toronto. Now, I want to be clear that I think it's a fallacy to say that the slower that you read a book, the better the book is. I mean, phrasing it like that sounds kind of weird, but there are a lot of people out there who believe this, who believe that the denser a book is, the more information and therefore the higher quality it is. But this is just clearly not true. I mean, you can imagine that you could write a very dense book that is absolutely nonsensical, but it would take people a very long time to read. So even though the density of language, prose versus plain English, is one factor that affects this, there are some other factors that affect it as well. And for me, it comes down to this question of why. Why was I reading these books? So in the case of, Swipe to Unlock, I'm reading because they're showing me these case studies on businesses. Now, as a computer science student, I'm already familiar with most of these businesses. And so their practices, their business models, how they make money effectively, are not new to me, right? I've studied these for years. And so I can read through it at a very rapid clip because it's just not new information to me. And what I'm really looking for are these kind of statistics or new tidbits of information or new ways of critically thinking that I haven't approached before. Then when I reach those after skimming most of it, I can slow down and think about it more. On the contrary, when I'm reading To the Lighthouse, I'm reading because Woolf has a very unique prose. She has a very unique way of writing and a very beautiful way of writing. So to appreciate that, I have to slow down. In fact, if I were to read it quickly, I don't think I would appreciate the book at all. It's pretty confusing. Now, obviously these two examples are kind of at opposite extremes, right? But they show how for one individual that the correct reading speed can change based on subject matter. Now for me, in general, when I'm asked, which one is the exception here, do I read more books by skimming through them or do I contemplate more books? I'm closer to the end of contemplation. So in general, I'm reading around 200 words per minute on an average book, but I already showed the variance is pretty extreme for that. But that being said, there are totally occasions where I do speed read. It's, like I said, especially effective when you're reading articles, when you're reading things for tests under, time constraints, obviously, or when you're reading content that you're already familiar with, and you're just kind of trying to pick up on any new ideas that you might have previously missed. So returning to our initial problem of, is setting the goal of reading a book a week, is that forcing me to be someone who skims books which should be contemplated? And I think the answer to this kind of lies in effectively 4 factors, right? Because it's going to vary from person to person whether reading a book a week is, rushing. So the 4 factors in the way that I see it, first is the question of why are you reading, right? Are you reading because you want to explore a bunch of different ideas? Are you reading because you want to explore a few ideas very deeply? That's going to inform what you're reading. That's the second factor. So are you going to be reading mostly, philosophy books, which will require, contemplative reading, same thing with literature, or are you going to be reading more pop science books or, pulp fiction, right? Those are books that you can get through really quickly. So once you have those 2 factors, then you can start to measure how quickly you can read, on average, the books that you're going to be reading. So this is going to vary from person to person, right? Everyone's at a different level. And luckily, reading speed can be trained. So if you're trying to read a lot of pop science books, and you want to skim through them, then maybe you should take a speed reading course. If you are reading a lot of literature, maybe you should read into how you can contemplate these books better. On either side of the extremes, you can train yourself to be a better reader. But this third factor is simply just determining what your current speed is. And then finally, fourth, figure out how much time you can actually dedicate to reading. So for me, I can dedicate around 8 hours a week to reading, and I've determined that the types of books that I want to be reading, I can read around 200 words per minute. So for me, reading a book a week on average is, relatively straightforward. It's pretty easy. As long as I stay committed to that 8 hours every week, then I get it done. And, this is true on average. Every week I don't get through a book. For example, To the Lighthouse took me, I think, 2.5 weeks to get through. But on the flip side, you have Swipe to Unlock, which, took me 2 hours to get through. And so it kind of just works out, averages out to about a book a week. I'm actually now, because I'm getting better at reading after reading a lot, I'm slightly faster than that. So I might think about setting a more ambitious goal to keep pushing myself. But, if you can dedicate 5 hours a week to reading and you want to read mostly literature, 100 words per minute, or maybe even slower, then you should set the goal to read a book every few weeks, maybe even a book a month. And this is simply based on why you're reading, what you're reading, and how you're reading. My point is, there is no one strategy which is best for everyone. You'll hear people talk about reading a book a day, and you'll think that they're superhuman, but they're not. They're just reading in a very different way than everyone else is. You'll also hear about people that get through, 10 books a year, but they're still constantly reading. And they're just reading in a different way. Neither one of these extremes is better, right? Maybe you can get through one book a year, but maybe that one book is War and Peace, and you're reading it very slowly, right? People do that, and there's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's what you want to do. So don't let these external pressures of people racking up ridiculous numbers of books stop you from reading at the rate at which you want to read, and at which is reasonable for you to read at the appropriate level of contemplativeness. I don't know if that's a word, might have just made that up. But my advice to you is figure out what you want to read, how you want to read, and how much you can read. And use that to determine how many books you read. Not some, Tai Lopez or even, John Fish saying how many books to read. Figure out what works for you and then start doing it. Because what matters is that you're reading and you're learning and you're growing. Not that you're getting through 50 or 300 books in a year. Pick a number that you think makes sense. Use that number to push you, but don't use it as a constraint against yourself. Remember why you're reading. Not to get through books, but to learn and to grow. All right, I'd now like to thank the sponsor of this video, Audible. So I've used Audible for a long time for consuming audiobook content. In my opinion, it's the best way to consume audiobook content. Audible has the biggest library of audiobooks in the world, and they have a fantastic player. And when we're talking about, the speed at which you consume long-form content, Audible allows for full control over that. So if you'd like to listen to your audiobook at half speed or 2 times speed or just regular speed, you can do that with their player. So I love being able to take advantage of this option, and I love listening to books on Audible. So if you want to get started with a free 30-day trial of Audible, you can go to audible.com/johnfish or text code JOHNFISH to 500-500. And this 30-day free trial is going to give you a credit for any audiobook in their massive library, as well as 2 free Audible originals. And this month, the book that I'm recommending is called Once a Runner by John Parker Jr. And this book has been called the greatest running novel of all time, and I'd have to agree with that assessment. I think it's probably one of my favorite stories that I've ever read. So if you want to pick up a copy of this or any other audiobook in their massive collection for free, you can go to audible.com/johnfish or text code JOHNFISH to 500-500 to start your 30-day free trial. Again, with that, you're getting that 1 credit for any audiobook in their library, as well as 2 free Audible originals. So it's a fantastic deal, and like I said, I use Audible all the time, and I highly recommend it. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. It was a lot of fun to make. I love talking about reading. I hope that I could help you in some way to think about what you're reading, why you're reading, how you're reading, and understand that you can become the type of reader that you want to become. And that ultimately, how many books you read doesn't matter as long as you're doing what you want to do. So for now, this video is over. I will be making more videos on reading in the future, I'm sure. So if you want to subscribe for this content or other content, the button's down below. You know what to do. I'm also on social media at TheJohnFish on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to follow me there. And if you want to leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you want to like the video, dislike the video. I always appreciate the feedback. And yeah, I'll see you next time.